Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players. Here on this show, we take a look at an up-and-coming North American talent. Each week, we check out a new player to get a feel for their personality and their playstyle. On Thursday, we interview the player to find out more about who they are and why you should care about them. On Friday, we watch 3 of their games as we cover their playstyle in each of the 3 matchups. Saturday, we take a look at an awesome game they played and relax with a little bit of fun as we recap the week and get an analysis of the games. Breaking Out will cover 8 players before it culminates into the Breakout Invitational. With a minimum prize pool of $1,000, we find out who is the most likely player to break out of the North American scene. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players that you need to know about. Today on the show, we're going to be jumping into the Protoss versus Terran. We've already actually covered the Protoss versus Zerg if you're watching this live on Twitch, but if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to check that out as well. But we're going to go ahead and jump in and introduce the players as we spawn up here in the top side of the map. Polar Night, once again, it is going to be the red Terran player representing Team Dignitas. It is Dignitas' Select. And his opponent spawning down here in the bottom side as the blue Protoss player, I believe, playing on the ladder on his barcode account. It is going to be the Protoss player, the highlight player of the week, Deimos Siphonn. And once again, just to speak about the opponent for this week, I mean, Select is just amazing. Select is actually just been super duper solid since the beta of Wings of Liberty, even I believe playing a little bit of Brood War, although he was mostly known for his Warcraft 3 play. And he is just a really great micro Terran that does an enormous amount of damage with a lot of aggression. He loves his drop play, he loves just poking at the front with a small number of units and just making miracles happen, which is definitely something to be feared in this kind of matchup, because I know that Terran players, they sometimes say like, oh, well, it's so difficult to actually make a lot of damage work against Protoss players, so, you know, until like the 10-minute mark. But you know what? Players like Select find ways to make it work, and I'm really interested to see how this game is going to go, because once again, Siphonn is the highlight player of the week, and Siphonn is actually just a really solid player, and this is actually what he says is his worst matchup at the moment. It's the matchup he feels the least comfortable in. I mean, Protoss versus Zerg, we already talked about that earlier. He feels is his best matchup, and this is his worst matchup. And, you know, go figure. PvP is actually his favorite matchup, so he has a little bit of extremism on all 3 of the matchups, but he is going to be going for that 1 gateway expansion, and actually, whoa, this is actually really cool. He actually delayed this gas geyser, went for the expansion, and is now going to be throwing down that cybernetics core. So he's actually not going to have a lot of gas, actually, by the time the cybernetics core finishes, to get, say, a mothership core, or Star Warp Gate technology, and get a stalker or anything of the sort. But he will have enough gas to, you know, at least start something. So nice little economic opening over there from Siphonn. In the meanwhile, take a look at Select. Oh god, Select up to his tricks once again. He's going to be going for the eventual expansion, but he gets a reactor on that barracks before anything else. I'm going to be going for a double Reaper opening, and now this could actually just be really devastating. Oh my god, actually a bunker going up from Select. What on earth is going on? 4 probes pulled off, and that is actually the perfect number of probes to actually deal with this little choke over here. He's going to actually send them around to the other side, try and pick away at that SCV. The SCV does finally have to back out, as well as that bunker getting canceled, but now the follow-up is going to be that Reaper opening. Now we have the probe actually from Siphonn, scouts that out. He's going to be able to try and come up with some sort of preparation for this. He does not have a mothership core on the way, just has a single stalker out. He's going to be starting that warp gate technology. He does not want to fall too far behind on that, as I mean, you want to be able to commit to the defense, but you don't want to overcommit to the defense, because these 2 Reapers, it's a nice opening. It's going to be able to try and punish a Protoss player that sort of skimps a little bit on the early game. But still, you don't want to try and overcommit to the defense and then die to the follow-up. But now we end up seeing one of these Reapers coming in over here to the natural expansion, the other one going into the main base, and he's going to be able to try and pick away at one of those probes, at least deny mining over here at the natural expansion. But very soon that second stalker is going to be out for Siphonn, and it's going to make it very difficult for Select to actually do a whole lot of damage over here. As now Siphonn is positioning the stalker down here at the natural expansion, may even try and bait those Reapers to try and move up to the main base, as they are going to try and move up. And now we end up seeing the target fire down on one of those Reapers. Will he end up getting one of them? Yes, he does. And very well done over there by Siphonn, kind of baiting out those Reapers to just say, hey, you know what? My Stalker's down here in the natural expansion. Just go into the main base. You'll be fine. Nothing's waiting up for you up over there. And then he managed to get the pick off. Very well done. Select gonna back up. Manages to keep one Reaper alive, which is really, really good. You can use that to try and scout out a little bit later on without having to move out with your entire army, or even just lose one of your early Marines very early on. Because honestly, if you have some good control with the Reaper, even in the mid-game stages, I mean, you can keep it alive and use it for extra scouting later on, and just keep it as on the watchtower. Look around for proxy paladins to do cute things like this, where you chase down that stalker. Because, I mean, honestly, without the Reaper, the dynamic of that engagement changes a little bit, because then the stalker starts wailing away at the Marines using its little kiting ability. But the Reaper actually changes that, because it has the extra movement speed. It makes it much more difficult for the stalker to actually do that without taking a little bit extra damage. But with that being said, this game is looking to be pretty standard for the most part now. I mean, robotics facility actually coming up, that Reaper coming back in. This is what I was talking about. You can get some great scouting information off. And look at this. He managed to sneak past a Stalker, a Sentry, and a Mothership Core, and managed to get out. Are you kidding me? Select with the IMBA timings for those scouting timings. And now we end up seeing robotics facility does actually get scouted out. What does he end up doing with it, though? Is he just going to be going for some observers, or is he going to follow it up with some Twilight Council tech? Is he going to follow up with the Robotics Bay really early on? Is he going to go ahead and grab a third expansion? A lot of possibilities really open at this point in the game. And, you know, Select also has a lot of possibilities open. He does have his factory finally complete. He's going to be eventually getting up that starboard. Honestly, starboard really just does allow for the Terran player to get a lot more aggression done much earlier on in the game, because those medevacs do allow you to sort of go for that drop play over in the main base. It allows you to heal up and not have to worry about that photon overcharge doing so much damage to your Terran units. Oftentimes, if you see the photon overcharge when you're trying to push into the natural expansion, you basically just get forced off. You really just don't want to be taking that damage, because you're not healing it up or anything. Your Marines start to die very, very quickly, and you got to back off. But with the medevacs out, you can do that kind of stuff. You can also go for those drops in the main base, as I was saying. But the Colossus coming out is going to make it very, very difficult for those big push-ins at the front. He's going to be wanting to go for a lot of the big drop play, a lot of the split-ups of where you kind of push in with some units at the front, push in with some units, or drop, I should say, with some units at the backside, and try and see what damage you can do. Now, we'll only have to wait and see which one Select decides to go for. I honestly feel like some of those drop play, while he kind of just pushes on multiple fronts. That's what Select is really good at, and I think that's where he's going to be best served against a very, very fast Colossus tech play from Siphonn. But Siphonn's building up that Zealot count. Zealot's also very, very good at just buying time for a Protoss player. I mean, when you have that time bought, you can get your units in position, even if there is a drop going on at the backside. I mean, even getting some photon cannons down, I feel like this is just really playing to the player of Select. Select is such an aggressive player, and he likes to go for these drops, and Siphonn just not going to have any of it. He's just saying, well, you know what? If you're going to move in, you're going to have to take out my photon cannons. You're going to take out these couple of units over here. And, ooh, Reaper does try and get a little bit of scouting information done. Does actually scout out that pylon. So you should know, okay, there's a good possibility that you're going to be going for some kind of third expansion very, very soon. Going to go ahead and move in with the drop play while he moves in from the right-hand side of the map with this force of units, potentially trying to look to get a snipe off on that third expansion. I think that's probably a pretty good guess. Siphonn actually hasn't actually thrown that down just quite yet. But Siphonn is a little bit into an interesting position, because a lot of his units are over here trying to get ready to take this third expansion. At the same time, the drop going to be coming in back to the side of the natural expansion in actually the perfect position over here, while the photon cannons in the main base really not going to be able to do a whole lot over here. And now we end up seeing photon overcharge does end up falling, as well as that those two Zealots also trying to just buy a little bit of time does force the lift up. And actually Siphonn does end up getting the losing that third expansion, getting cancel off. Select does. And he's going to be pretty happy with that, because at the same time, his third expansion is already finished up. Now, Siphonn does see this with his Observer, but he's building up a pretty scary army. Already has his third Colossus going to be finishing up in a couple of seconds. Blink on the way, also has +1/+1 versus the +1/+1 of his opponent, so even on upgrades, but still. Siphonn, he just needs to hold off against these drops for a little bit longer, and I think that he's going to have a very, very scary timing attack that he can push out with. And, you know, this drop over here, gonna try and do a little bit of damage. Managed to snipe off a couple of these pros, but honestly, I think that's gonna get not that much damage done. He managed to snipe off of like 4 or 5 pros, I believe, over there. He managed to kill off a couple at the natural expansion earlier on, and oh, a nice little stag off by Siphonn. Gained some good force fields done over there on Select's army, and Select actually doesn't have a very big army left anymore. Now, he's trying to be annoying with these drops, so he does have some of his army kind of positioned around the other side of the map, but still, I'm not sure if he has actually enough to defend against some big push out in the next couple of minutes from Siphonn. I mean, 3 Colossus, a 4th coming up. We have 4 Vikings on the way with the double starport production, so that's going to be a really, really nice move by Select if you can get up enough Vikings to deal with that Colossus count. But if he doesn't get up enough in time, and I say in time because I feel like Siphonn's going to push out very soon. I mean, it's even indicated by the fact that he's getting up this proxy pylon setup. He's moving out with a lot of his units over to the center of the map, even though there's still sort of that threat of these 2 Marines dropping into the natural expansion, although he does already have 3 Zealots positioned over there and ready to defend that. Yeah, you can see he's getting ready to move in and trying to at least deny mining at this 3rd expansion, but he has to be careful. Those Vikings doing a lot of damage, already managed to pick off 1 of the Colossus. The Vikings actually under attack from the Stalkers, though. He has to be very, very careful with the positioning over here. Some nice force fields end up going down, and actually he managed to keep 2 of the Colossus alive, and still manages to keep alive the majority of his Stalkers. So Siphonn's still going to be in a great position. There are a lot of Marauders left over, though, so those Marauders will be able to eat through that Stalker ball. And in the meanwhile, Siphonn is only just now really securing that 3rd expansion and getting the probes transferred over there. He may just have to go in for the round 2, but is he going to try and just tech out to Templar tech? No, he's just going to be adding on a couple more gateways and really just going for it. Now, there's 2 Marines being very, very annoying on the side of the base, but I mean, Siphonn has even pulled those Zealots that were helping out with the defense over at the natural expansion. He is going to be moving in, trying to get as much damage done as possible. He moves in with the Stalkers maybe a little bit early. He maybe wants to lead with some of those Zealots, but no, it looks like he feels pretty comfortable with how many units he has. Picks off a Viking, picks off 2 of the Medivacs, and now those Colossus really, really going to be able to rain hell down from above. The Vikings getting focus fire down once again. The Marauders doing a lot of damage, but the Colossus honestly just doing a little bit more, and those Zealots acting like impromptu force fields, keeping a lot of those Marauders busy, and with all the Vikings pretty much cleaned up. I mean, there's not just a whole, there's really just not anything to clean up these Colossus. The Colossus really raking in the kills, 6 on one of them, 12 on the other, and now they have free reign over on this 3rd expansion. It's gonna have to lift off or something very, very soon. The Marauders trying to come in. They may be able to get a snipe off on one of those Colossus, but no, Siphonn backs up at the exact right time, comes in with some reinforcements, is able to even get off a free Marauder, but does end up trading actually out one of those Stalkers, and actually 1 Colossus does get picked off, but you know, Select looked like he had a great opportunity to pick off the Colossus, but he ended up losing so many units trying to commit to killing that off, and now you can see that he's down to just 46 workers. So many of those SCVs end up dying. 23 of them just ended up dying over there. I mean, Siphonn really just didn't do any early game harassment or anything, so all 3 of those 23 SCVs died at that 3rd expansion that felt he could have eventually defended. But honestly, he took a little bit too much damage, and Siphonn going to be able to kind of move back, regroup, and power off of this 3rd base that he still has running. He's going to have an economic advantage in a little bit. Right now, Select still has a very, very decently sized Viking count that he can actually, well, actually I say that, but really, Select just lost so many units, and Siphonn managed to keep those 2 Colossus alive. So he was able to sort of repower and reinforce, and once again, he has a very scary army pushing down this front, forcing a lift up on that 3rd command center. And oh my god, the 3rd command center is going to end up falling over here, as he also ends up killing off a majority of the Vikings. The Vikings managed to kill off a majority of the Colossus, but 1 Colossus does survive. It gets taken out, but the Stalker count is just a little bit too high. The 3rd command center does end up eventually getting very, very close to falling down and burning down. But I think that Select just realizes he does not have the economy anymore with all those SCVs falling to actually power through and take out his opponents. So Siphonn gonna be able to take this game in a really, really awesome way. He just took it through pure macro for the most part. I mean, he really wasn't hyper aggressive. He managed to fend off a couple of drops, and even though he ended up losing that 3rd expansion, I mean, he just did a good job not really taking too much damage, as he was also dropped from the backside. Got a drop in the main base as well, and just kind of powered through, got the necessary tech, and punished Select with some really solid engagements, doing a good job focus firing down those Vikings, and eventually able to take it. So really well done by Siphonn. With that being said, guys, that's going to put an end to the Protoss versus Terran. We're going to be jumping into the Protoss versus Protoss next, so don't go anywhere. If you're watching this over on twitch.tv/FearDragon64, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and check out the Protoss versus Zerg and the Protoss versus Terran, as well as actually check out all the links to actually follow Siphonn over on Twitter, on Twitch, etc. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into a quick break on Twitch. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Protoss versus Protoss.